Welcome to The Last Man. I'm Jeremy. How you doing?
Welcome. I'm Derek.
You having a good day?
Yeah, pretty good. How about yourself?
Yeah, it's been a bit of a, I think been in relaxed mode the last week, but yeah, doing all right.
Relax mode.
Yeah, taking it easy. Taking it as it comes.
There you go.
Yeah.
Just total chill mode.
Yeah. And what a week to do it, man. This is, there's a lot going on news-wise, and I'm real interested to get your take on it and see how, discuss how you see it.
Okay.
There's, I guess we'll just dive straight in.
Okay. Yeah, I guess our first topic we're going to be talking about Elon Musk's new agency, Doge.
Department of Government Efficiency.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really understand what that is, other than it's a new agency, and they're going in and doing a basically an audit of all the government overspending.
Yeah, and in this one, there's a lot of pushback that's occurring because the first place, and I don't know if it's just because it's alphabetical or what, but the first agency they've seemed to land on is USAID, which is the well, hang on a second. So USAID, Doge. Yeah, so let's cue it up. And do you want to cue it, because as we looked at this, we watched some that were a little left slanted, and then kind of looked at it more centered. Do you want to take it a certain way, or how would you prefer to look at it?
Oh, I guess from my own perspective, I don't really know, what they are. I'm assuming like most Americans, they just see this Elon coming in with this agency that's not legitimate. So I don't know if that's true or not. I guess you can look that up as we go.
Yeah. And
that he's just coming in and just making different changes. And I guess some other people were thinking, why isn't the oversight committee, at the federal level is not doing this job? Why is he doing this job instead of them?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of what people are thinking. Like, why do we need Doge, and why is Elon Musk, doing this?
Yeah, so there's a lot on here. Who's the real president? Let's see if we can find one. Because they've, like I mentioned, gotten into the USAID and started auditing, but and there's so much misinformation out there.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't know what USAID, what they actually do.
Right. Oh, that seems to be for sure. So let's start with this.
The CIA is now offering buyouts to its entire workforce, and Elon Musk facing criticism over his government revamp efforts. ABC's Lionel Louise has the latest.
This morning, the CIA is now offering buyouts to its entire staff, the latest move in President Trump's push to downsize the government. It follows a similar offer to civilian federal workers last month. About 20,000 of those workers have now accepted the buyout ahead of tomorrow's deadline, amid reports of mass layoffs to come. ABC News has learned Elon Musk, leading the Department of Government Efficiency, has now moved beds into the executive office building next to the White House, allowing Musk and his staff to sleep there when working late. His staff reportedly includes people as young as 19 years old. President Trump insists they're qualified.
They're very smart people.
Trump also praising Musk for dismantling USAID, an agency that funds international relief efforts.
It's a disaster.
USAID staff getting this email that all direct hires will be put on administrative leave with pay, except for certain staffers serving mission-critical functions. Democrats held a rally outside the Treasury Department to protest Musk's influence.
We have got to tell Elon Musk, nobody elected your Nobody told you can get all of our private information.
We don't pledge
A lot of
allegiance
things
to
like
Elon Musk.
here to articulate things that are actually happening. That's what I keep saying. Like any leader, if the people are this outraged, especially like when the president has their state of the nation, these are the times that you need to address these concerns, and actually break down what's actually going on and why they're doing certain things.
Communication.
Exactly. It all comes down to communication, because it's just not like getting the country back on track. It's about, bringing people together, making sure there's no divisiveness or,
Yeah.
Just like when you see all these outrage, it's something that should be addressed.
Well,
We pledge allegiance to the United States of America.
Musk has also faced scrutiny after getting a hold of the Treasury Department's payment system, which disperses 90% of all federal payments, including Social Security and Medicare. The Treasury Department insisting Musk's team has been granted read-only access, suggesting no changes will be made without higher authority. And back to those buyout offers made to millions of federal workers. 3 unions are now suing to block the offers, arguing the buyout plan amounts to a threat and represents an arbitrary offer.
Okay, so that's the first. So you brought something up that we didn't really get into with that, and all I can do is explain my understanding of why this. Why not use a Senate Oversight Committee or a Budgetary Review Committee? And the argument I would make is that that's what we've been doing for decades, right? We've been trying to use the apparatus as it exists to eliminate wasteful spending, and there is so much. There are so many of these agencies have the ability to hedge themselves off that it doesn't ever get anywhere, and so Trump created. With an executive order, he created this Department of Government Efficiency, and it's under the executive branch. So it's not in the other branch,
judicial or
legislative, right? So it's not under the legislative branch, which, if it were, it would be subject to Congress, and then Congress would presumably pick who's on it and determine who. And so with that, it's an element of independent oversight. And so from that standpoint, letting them go in and look is, I don't know what the USAID is the United States Department of Aid. No, hold on. It's misleading. Hold on a second.
It's supposed to be for like foreign aid,
or
foreign development. In other countries and things. That's what you're supposed to be doing.
It's the United States Agency for International Development, rather. Mm-hmm. And so the challenge is that when you say it is USAID, it sounds like this is aid that we're giving out, and that does. I think there is an element of that, but what it looks like is more common is that this is when we support grassroots movements in foreign countries to help a minority overthrow the leader, or to help. Now, it has a wide gamut of things that it does. So it's not just insurrectionist type things, but that's the point, is what are they doing? What are they spending, and where are those dollars going? The fact that so many people are screaming and making such a scene about it makes me wonder what's going on. Like why would you be so opposed to independent budget review?
Right, you're talking about the people who are actually spending the money actually in that agency.
Right, and they found tons of situations of waste and situations where they shouldn't be paying these things, or where they shouldn't be doing things with the money that they're doing with it. So, look, if we do USAID and this. There we go. So
yeah, I think that brings up an interesting thing too when you talk about them doing audit. I think you're going to get good results when you audit yourself, right?
Right, exactly. Why is that?
Yeah.
Why is that what everybody's screaming about? And I get it. They're saying, because they said that they're sending what they consider non-mission critical or non-essential personnel home while they do the audit. I can get them saying, look, we have things, but the fear mongering that's coming up and acting like this is somehow just killing millions of people and that this is absurd. We have a rampant waste situation in the country where money is just being misappropriated left and right. And the way that you find that out is by looking at it. So I'm not sure what they're so upset about. So here, let's check this out.
Welcome back to CBS News 24/7. Federal workers offered a government buyout face a deadline today. So today is the last day to take that deal. Nearly 10,000 U.S. and U.S. aid employees.
And let me just read through some of these or spend their money.
Positions. What are some of the directions the money has flowed that has really caused some people on both sides of the aisle to be in question?
Yeah, Reed, a lot of questions about how USAID actually spends their money. Our Confirmed team went through and looked at line by line where some of this money gets spent. And let me just read through some of these reports that we have found. There was a claim from the Trump administration that about $2 million was spent in USAID funds for a Moroccan pottery class. That is true. In 2009, USAID allotted about $27 million for an economic development project in Morocco. Now, pottery is an economic engine there, and their tile industry is world-renowned. A lot of tourists go there and make pottery. That's something that happens. But the question remains of why U.S. taxpayer dollars are being used to fund a program like this that was later found to be, quote, ineffective. There was also a claim that $20 million was spent on a Sesame Street show created for Iraq. This is also true. USAID used about $20 million of partner funding to work with the Sesame Street Workshop to produce a program that would promote inclusion, mutual respect, and understanding across ethnic, religious, and sectarian groups. That is a quote from their website. And this project was supposed to run from 2021 to 2027. Another claim that our team had fact-checked and looked at was that there was a $70,000 DEI musical that was being produced in Ireland. Also true. The Department of State, as a part of a public diplomacy program, awarded about $70,000 in 2022 for a live musical event that would promote the U.S. and Irish shared values of diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is all a part of government records. And just finally, another one that I want to read to you that we found as a part of our look at this line-by-line item was another eye-popping figure, about $9 million of funds that were supposed to be used for food and medical supplies for Syrian civilians actually ended up in the hands of a terrorist. This is someone who was using these funds, diverting them to terrorist organizations, including one that's affiliated with Al-Qaeda. So there are a lot of questions surrounding USAID. And of course...
So that's the thing, though, is if... So when I see all of these people screaming, like, nobody elected Elon and this is preposterous, and it really makes me wonder why. It's like, why would you be, and then stuff like this comes out, and it's like, okay, this is what our tax dollars are going to.
Yeah, I don't think it's really the oversight part. It's just how, I guess, things are implemented, how you present things to people. You have somebody who's a billionaire, who just comes in, and it seems like he's just comes in and he's looking at people's information. You don't really know if he is legitimate. He might have been legitimized in 2022 under the Biden administration.
Well, that was just a top secret security clearance. I mean, that just means that he has the ability to look at top secret information. That I think his track record is what speaks for him. The fact that he's been able to trim spending in companies and manage large companies is what we're talking about. He's familiar with going through budgets and figuring out how to eliminate waste and at least identify waste. As I understand it, he's not the one that's stopping the waste. They just turn the reports over to the president. As a member of the executive branch, they're turning it over to Trump and letting Trump and his team determine what to do about it. So as a result, for example, they have let a number of the people at USAID go, and they've set Marco Rubio as the head of the USAID. And then they are coming up with a contingency plan on how to identify the mission-critical programs that need to keep going, that are doing things like legitimate, funding to legitimate sources and maintain those. So nobody's suggesting that they're just shuttering the USAID. Nobody's suggesting that they're just going to turn it off, and that they are making every attempt to diligently choose what needs to continue. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah, I mean, that makes perfect sense. But I don't think that message is getting through to the people who are screaming bloody murder like they're killing people.
And it's not getting through because there are people that are intent on making sure that's not what's coming across. They are just screaming, oh, the injustice, and oh, look how horrible this is. And it's honestly, it's a little ridiculous. But I mean, this is what he was elected to do. So, I mean, how can you perform a budget review without looking at the budget? It doesn't make any sense.
Hey, nobody said the president's job is easy, right?
Right.
But I think we did bring up a good point, like the internal reviews. Like the whole point of having 3 branches was because of checks and balances.
Yeah, 2 branches, but yeah. The executive kind of sits off on its own, but you've got the judicial, the legislative. It's considered a bicameral system, but so you have the two branches of government, and then the executive kind of straddles, so it sits over the top with veto power. So, yeah,
I think one of those things is like, I mean, I don't know, to the extent of how they operate, but you can have your own internal review, of course, but you always have to have like somebody from the other branches come in and do like an outside audit, and you only have so much time. Like I think you pointed out earlier when we was talking about this, taking years for an audit. That's ridiculous. Everything's electronic. It's not written down in pen and paper.
Well, you asked why they couldn't just use an existing apparatus to do it, why they had to create another agency. And I think the answer to that is because that's happened. We already have processes in place that are supposed to have been doing this, and they've obviously failed. They can drag their feet and wait, years to get reports out and not turn it over. And by the time that it gets to the point where they could conceivably have something, we're into the next presidential term, and the next president looks at it differently or has already changed the initiative. So it's just, this is part of the danger with bureaucracy, is when you get a bureaucracy that runs away, you have to keep it. I see this as an attempt to keep it in check.
Yeah, I mean, I see the same thing. It's just that those type of things, that's what needs to be changed. Like if you're talking about years for an audit, this shouldn't be the case. You have to change that. You have 30 days.
Yeah, right.
Come up for a report.
Right.
Where the money is going.
Right.
It's not that hard. You're already keeping track of it. I just need it in paper form. Just send it over to my office.
Right. Well, USAID is huge. They're I saw 70 billion, or was it 50 billion? I think I saw it's a $50 billion organization.
I think it was 50 billion.
Yeah, and so the entire defense budget's only 70 billion. So you're talking about something that's rivaling the size of the Defense Department. And there are tons. I've actually seen a ledger of the different, a lot of the different things they're finding. And every once in a while, they'll hit a line item that says $1.2 billion to undisclosed recipients. It's like, wait, what? they just turn it over to people? Like nobody has to account for it? It's nuts. Yeah. It's absolutely nuts.
I need some of that in my pocket.
Right? Well, that's the thing, though, is if you had some of it in your pocket, I think you might end up being in jail eventually because they're hopefully finding where it's gone.
Well, I wouldn't be in the United States, of course.
Right, of course. Yeah, offshore accounts and Yeah, I got you. But yeah, so there are a lot of people that are screaming. There's a lot of protesters, and honestly, I don't know if it's just people on the left or if it's people. I really can't tell. But there are a lot of people that are saying that this is fascism. That's saying that it just makes no sense. I don't really understand the reason. So here, look.
This is a 90-day freeze.
Now, keep in mind, he's just been set up as the head of USAID. This is Marco Rubio, right?
Through which it allows us now to review programs. Before we did the freeze, we couldn't find out anything about some of these programs. And USAID in particular, they refused to tell us anything. We won't tell you what the money's going to, where the money's for, who has it, which contractor it's been. In some cases it goes through 4 different contractors before it reaches the intended recipient. In some cases with USAID, 10, 12, 13%, maybe less of the money was actually reaching the recipient, and the rest was going into the overhead and the bureaucracy. This isn't my money. This is taxpayer money. So we're not going to eliminate foreign aid. We're going to have foreign aid that makes sense. We're going to have foreign aid that works. We're going to have foreign aid that furthers the national interest.
They're not eliminating foreign aid, okay? That's a wake-up call for Democrats.
So that's why I have a hard time with all the people screaming and protesting about it, because it makes you wonder. It makes you wonder what it is that they're so afraid of.
Yeah, I think like you said, they were afraid of like all aid being cut off, but I guess it's just one of those things you gotta wait until they actually do something.
Yeah, but listen to the language that they're using. This is an example. So this one, for example.
Development and security programs in some 120 countries. Staffers have been told to stay out of the Washington headquarters, and many report being locked out of the agency's computer systems. Musk says the agency is, quote, beyond repair. He, Trump, and some Republican lawmakers have accused it of promoting liberal causes.
Well, look, I mean, my frustration with USAID goes back to my time in Congress. It's a completely unresponsive agency. It's supposed to respond to policy directives of the State Department, and it refuses to do so. So the functions of USAID, there are a lot of functions of USAID that are going to continue, that are going to be part of American foreign policy, but it has to be aligned with American foreign policy. USAID has a history of sort of ignoring that and deciding that there's somehow a global charity separate from the national interest. These are taxpayer dollars.
We talked about Trump wanting to be a dictator on day one.
This is where it gets crazy.
And here we are. This is what the beginning of dictatorship looks like. When you gut the Constitution and you install yourself as the sole power, that is how dictators are made. I am exceptionally upset.
No, she's
about
not. But
USAID.
if that's what were happening, it would be legitimate.
I lived in a refugee camp for 4 years as a child surviving civil war. It is the essential programs that USAID provided that kept my family and I fed and safe.
Well, see, that's good then. She should want this to happen, because she should want to make sure that the U.S. money that is destined for places like that is actually making it there, instead of going to other places that it has no places being, like spending $20 million on Sesame Street, right? Things that just don't make any sense. But I don't. But they don't see it like that. They see it as, oh, he's a dictator in the making, and so here, let's look at this one.
Yeah, I think she's concerned like that's going to be cut off, like the aid to the country because people need the food and everything.
But they're not trying to do that. What they're trying to do is trying to prevent this from continuing to operate absent of oversight.
Elon Musk, you didn't create USAID. The United States Congress did for the American people. And just like Elon Musk did not create USAID, he doesn't have the power to destroy it. And who's going to stop him? We are. We're going to stop him. This illegal, unconstitutional interference with congressional power is threatening lives all over the world. I'm hearing from my constituents who work for USAID and USAID contractors in Maryland, in Washington, all over the world, and they're telling us that this is a killer in terms of their cutoff of HIV and AIDS preemption. It's a killer in terms of anti-malarial education. It's a killer in terms of all of the efforts to shut down global viruses.
President Trump directed his corrupt billionaire friend, Elon Musk, to ransack a critical agency of the U.S. government. Musk and his band of unelected acolytes at DOJ have locked out USAID employees from their offices, improperly accessed highly classified information, purged the agency of its nonpartisan leadership, and thrown the agency into chaos through a concerted campaign of harassment and intimidation of its employees. This is on top of Trump's freeze of crucial foreign assistance programs.
The same suit, the same hairstyle.
Yeah, I don't think he may not be a politician. I don't know.
Well, he's literally dressed like one.
These actions severely harm our national security. They put thousands of children around the world at immediate risk of starvation, disease, and death, and sideline some of our finest civil servants who work tirelessly every day to make the world a better place. This is a case of the very worst among us attacking the very best of us. The work USAID does is vital to all Americans. Agency employees stationed here in the capital region and in posts around the world work hand in hand with our military to counter terrorism and to stabilize dangerous regions. They monitor and they fight diseases like Ebola and bird flu to prevent them from coming to the United States.
Okay, he's not wrong, right? He's not wrong. Well, not completely. What he's wrong about is, first of all, the thing that drives me crazy is the way they keep going on personal attacks and identity attacks. They're calling them thugs and saying that they're not qualified. You know, there was one where I saw AOC jumping in and saying that Elon Musk was just not intelligent, right? Saying he's just not smart, and he's bringing people in that are not qualified. And they're resorting to personal attacks instead of talking about substantive things. And when they come through and say, look at all of these line items that we found, I can't help but think that's what they don't want, is they don't want it to be exposed of where the money's being spent. And we have to ask ourselves why.
Yeah. I mean, that's always when I stop listening, when it comes down to like just personal attacks and what's actually they're doing. If it plays into, anything that they've actually done, it might seem like they might be doing something wrong.
Right.
That's a different story. But when you're just attacking people, their intelligence or not exactly what they're doing, then I just tune it out. There's like no point in listening. You're not really telling me anything.
Right.
So what's the point of listening?
Right. And then there's the whole, when we look at the line items that we find, a lot of them are DEI related stuff. So, $1.5 million for promoting diversity and inclusion in Serbia's workplaces, $70,000 for a DEI musical in Ireland, which we just heard about, $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia, and $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru. So, those are just a few examples. And the challenge is when you start looking at it like that, you start wondering, okay, are they trying to somehow subvert the culture of the places they're doing this in? Are they trying to, what does and I don't know. It makes me wonder if this is something along these lines that got pointed at us in 2016 when these issues and agendas kind of jumped to the forefront.
Propaganda in other countries.
Yeah. Right, which that draws in my mind the question of propaganda in this country. And it really makes me wonder because then if you want to talk about that, how do we get to a point where we're not discussing propagandized items, where we're talking about things that are actually relevant to the U.S. people? And how do we get to a point where elections are actually based on things that are relevant to the U.S. people? And so, I
kind of think that's like on the people. If they stop, falling prey to these kind of like narratives. Yeah, then I think you'll see things starting to change when you start waking up seeing like they're not really saying anything.
No, I can't agree with you there. And the reason I can't agree with you is because when such a significant percentage of the media apparatus has been commandeered and used for propaganda, what the people see is not necessarily relevant topics. So it's not like they're seeing good information to compare to the bad information. When you've got extremely left-leaning media organizations that are just pumping specific narratives, and hundreds of these stations are pumping the same narrative all the time, it really changes the name of the game. So I think this is part of the rejection we've seen of the media apparatus in the United States, and the shifting towards things like independent broadcasters and independent podcasts and things like that. And that's the reason, is because they know that they're not just taking talking points from, Soros's organization, or, it's just a different. And I would agree that given if all things are equal, people should be able to choose appropriately. But a lot of people in this country don't know that they're being propagandized, in my opinion.
Well, that's probably true too. Like we had this kind of discussion like last time when we was talking about what was it? I think it was the 14th Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
It was said it was lined up, and it's clearly stated.
Mm-hmm.
Like all this stuff is still clearly stated on any website or
Right.
any reputable source that you want to look at, where you get the original source of that information.
Right.
But people ignore that. They don't want to read the things for themselves. They want other people to read it to them or listen to other
And
people.
even interpret it for them and tell them what it means and tell them what the consequences are.
Yeah.
And
so this is like full circle, just coming
Right.
back around.
Right. And that's where fear-mongering comes in. That's where the propaganda arm comes in. And it's a lot. We're about to get into that in the next topic we jump into when we talk about, because the next topic is Trump's actions and executive orders, essentially, because he's rolling them out, man.
We already touched on them.
Yeah, we did. So there's one that kind of ties in the federal employee buyout offer, which it said that 40,000. I saw somewhere that 40,000 people had already accepted. Apparently, a judge just halted that until till Monday or something like that, I think. So they're reviewing whether or not it's constitutional, I guess. But a number of people have accepted it. People that are saying, yeah, I'll take it, because they're offering 8 months of benefits, basically a 8-month severance package.
Yeah.
And so a number of people have said, yeah, and the administration's position is, if these people are willing to go, let them go, right? If rather than be there than be here. And this is also at a point where something like a very small percentage of federal employees were actually coming into the workplace. That a lot of them were working remotely, and it was questionable about the amount of time and actual work product that they were contributing. So again, with the aim of trying to reduce government overexpense, this is right in line with what we would have expected to happen.
Yeah, I just want my curiosity is to the people who are accepting these buyouts. I mean, I would assume that they're newer people, who really didn't want to be, in the federal, be a federal employee. I think our benefits actually start in like 3 months after you've been there. But yeah, and most people get burned out depending on where you are.
Right.
So yeah, it'd be perfect for them. It's like, 7 months, 7 months to find a new job and I still get paid.
Right. So let's look at this.
Welcome back. A spokesperson for the Office of Personnel Management
This
says
is
more than
MSNBC,
20,000 federal employees have accepted the buyout offer put forward by the Trump administration. The OPM office says the number of resignations has been rapidly growing ahead of tomorrow's deadline. Meanwhile, unions representing government employees have filed a lawsuit to block the plan, calling the buyout offer arbitrary and capricious, saying it violates federal law. They also allege the administration can't guarantee the plan will be funded. We've actually heard that from lawmakers, and that the plan has failed to consider the consequences of mass resignations and how it may affect the government's ability to function. Joining us now, Democratic Congressman of Virginia, Suhas Subramaniam.
Okay, so that's part of the consideration and concern. Buyout, yeah, here, look, I think that one's 10 minutes. I was looking for a short one that gives us a
Today,
summation.
Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency moves ahead with a campaign promise to shake up Washington.
We're going to look at the receipts of this federal government and ensure it's accountable to American taxpayers.
The administration now targeting the CIA and National Security Agency in potential cuts, which critics say could put U.S. national security at risk. Plus Medicare and Medicaid, which serve more than 140 million Americans.
That's for
Federal
fear.
workers are being courted into taking a buyout by today's deadline, and some departments are posed to be slashed entirely.
See, my concern
Musk's
is
team
like with the understaffing, like you're going to have more people putting on more hats, taking on more responsibility.
And they're also going to have to hire. I mean, they're going to have to hire people. If enough people leave, they're going to have to hire. But the problem is everybody's painting this narrative of, oh, look at all the it's going to go off the rails. If we're not careful, it's going to go off the rails. It is off the rails. We're $36 trillion in debt. It is beyond off the rails. It's broken. And so I'm not feeling real sympathetic to these are critical jobs. Yeah, okay, there are some critical jobs, but we do need to maintain those. But I don't. Something has to change.
Yeah, I mean, all for change, but it's just how you do it.
I
If
agree.
you don't want to hit people like just slam them up against a brick wall, you know,
No.
it has to be implemented like
8
correctly.
months severance? I don't think
Yeah.
8 months severance is slamming people up against a brick wall.
Well, I'm talking about the people who don't have it, who are leaving those jobs,
Mhm.
who could be in critical situations where they do need the people to come in.
Mhm.
I don't know if there's still a hiring freeze for federal government workers or not, but
I'm not sure either.
But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that's going on right now. But
Yeah.
yeah, if you don't want to
Of
be
young
there,
tech engineers
then of
gaining
course you take
access
it.
to
Sorry. Yeah, I hear you. I agree. Let's see.
millions of federal workers' personal information as it considers its options.
And now this
He is
USAID.
effectively shutting down an American government agency.
No, he's not.
That requires an act of Congress.
Now, to support what he said, I think they did by sending people home. I think technically it did shut them down for a day or two. So that, I guess that's what they're referring to. The idea that he's destroying them and they're just going to disappear, though, is not
Government offices
accurate.
Wednesday. Some Democratic members of Congress joined protesters pushing back against Musk's efforts.
I am so tired of these billionaire boys and their grubby little hands grabbing at everything.
On Capitol Hill, Democrats called on Musk to testify before Congress. It quickly got out of hand.
I think it's outrageous that this committee will not even entertain a motion.
No, you state your.
Chairman, that's not a point of order.
And dismantling our federal agencies.
You're out of order.
No, we don't listen to demagogues.
Data,
Out of
and
order.
you will not
Out of
even
order.
Out of
entertain
order.
a motion
The
to
motion
bring
of
this
order.
to
This is
President.
Point of order. Point of order. Out of order.
Yes, let's have order in this country.
You're out of order.
Musk, who changed his X bio to read White
whole
House
court
tech
is out of
support,
order.
mocked the congressional hearing, writing, "How
He
is this
changed his
reality?"
description to White
while
House tech
posting about
support
which
on-
agencies he plans to target next.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's a lot. I mean, at least not throwing shoes at each other.
Right. That's true. But yeah, it's that. What was the one I saw? It was, because we're going to see if I can find it. So, oh yeah. Okay. So bear with me a second. I want to watch this. Now, this is a podcaster that I'll give a shout out is Brad Palumbo. And he covers something that I think is crazy. Now, just bear with me a second. This is talking about the death of DEI, right? So the idea that DEI is being shut down, because what we're talking about, this topic right now is his executive orders. And that was one of them, that no more DEI at the federal level, no more DEI hiring. All forms must have, IDs must reflect the sex you were born with, the biological sex you were born with. There's no more X. There's no more of these additionals that you can add. So with that in mind, let's look at this.
Tired of the white tears. You are competent. You are not concerned. So the only people that are crying are the mediocre white boys.
This congresswoman just went on one of the nastiest rants.
So yeah, let's jump to where she goes. So here.
Said that is not even close to being accurate. Take a listen.
We right now have a white supremacist that is sitting in the White House. He is backed up by other white supremacists. And if you really want to know who the criminals are in this country, you can Google it. You don't have to trust me. But the people that commit 80% of the most violent crimes in this country are white supremacists. Yet for whatever reason,
I don't have any idea where she gets that stat from. I don't know where she gets that information from.
competent, you are not concerned. When I walk into Congress every single day, you know why I don't feel a way and why you can't make me doubt who I am is because I know that I had to work 10 times as hard as they did just to get into the seat. When you look and you compare me to Marjorie Taylor Greene or me to Lauren Boebert, there is no comparison. And that is the life that we have always lived. So the only people that are crying are the mediocre white boys that have been beaten out by people that historically have had to work so much harder.
Okay, so she was responding to one of Trump's appointees that was put in at I think it was underneath Marco Rubio, and it may have been one of them at USAID, but one of Trump's appointees that put in had made some a statement. I don't know if it was years ago, but made a statement at one point in the past saying that competent white men must be in charge. He makes some statements that actually I find offensive, right? That strike me as very racially denigrating or very racially provocative. And so now whether he's going to be appointed or whether he is, I don't know. But this was the result of that in this conversation. And her response, mind you, she is a Democratic representative from Texas. So she's a state representative who's now gone on the news saying this. And the challenge is that she just completely takes the gloves off. And when she does, the things that she's saying are unbelievable. So check this out.
This is why they don't want us to have education. This is why they are trying to literally say we won't fund the HBCUs, because they know that if they've already gone after affirmative action and they're saying, you know what, don't allow them to come into, say, these PWIs, as we call them, don't allow them to come into these institutions. We know why they created the HBCUs in the first place. It was because they wouldn't allow us into the white institutions. And so now they're not allowing us in. And now they're saying, you know what, we're also going to defund the HBCUs. You know why? Because they don't want any more Kamala Harrises. They don't want any more Jasmine Crockett's. But I got news for them. I don't care what they do. We will fight to the end to make sure that we get our due. Because again, if you want to talk about the people that shouldn't be in this country, you probably need to look in the mirror, because the last time I checked, the Native Americans who some of ICE have been rounding up, or the Puerto Ricans who are absolutely Americans, listen, the only people that came and colonized this place are your ancestors, Trump.
Okay, now that was a lot. So again, and I think the only reason this is getting any attention is because she's a representative, right? It's not like she's just a random person going on the news. But so from the implication that black people are trying to be cut out of primarily white institutions, PWIs as she called them, as a result of getting rid of affirmative action, I don't know how to agree with. She made a few statements that seemed a little inflammatory. Specifically, also the implication that ICE is out rounding up Native Americans I've looked and I can't find any circumstances where that's actually happened. There have been
they did detain.
No, there have been situations where they've gone into places and required documentation, and they said, "Show us your papers." And there have been some Native Americans that have been reportedly in those, but when they show them their papers, they let them go. They're not detaining people, Native Americans, and so the challenge is that this is just very inflammatory, and then to proceed on to say that really the people that are colonizing or the people that are here inappropriately are the white people, and that it is just I don't know how this is acceptable. And I typically side with racial diversity and racial integration. That's you know where I stand on that. I just have a hard time calling out an entire group and saying, "Look how messed up you are," and I don't know what are your thoughts?
Well, I think for the most part, I understand where she's coming from, given the person she's talking about, with the comments that he made, that he's clearly, doesn't feel like black people or minorities are qualified for certain tasks.
I don't think he said that. I don't know that he said that, but
he specifically said he wanted more qualified white men.
Well, he didn't say I want
like
more.
That.
He was basically saying, yeah, let's look at what he did say. Yeah.
So it was more racially motivated. With
I agree.
Comments.
It was inappropriate. Yeah, 100%.
And then you want to put somebody like that in a position where he has authority over, different
budgets. He's apparently doing the budgetary review.
Groups. Yeah, different groups, then I would have a problem with that.
Yeah, I agree. That's I don't think it's appropriate for people that are ideologically bent. Now, this is where it gets hairy, because I don't think it's appropriate for people that have ideological bends or that ideologically lean against groups of people to be in positions where they can influence them.
Right.
Right. I think that's the salient point. Now, yeah. So let's see. Let's look.
Many people remember who Darren Beattie is. He was fired in 2018 from being a speechwriter. He was speaking at a conference attended by white nationalists. And then a few months ago, he posted this, Congresswoman. Competent white men must be in charge if you want things to work. Unfortunately, our entire national ideology is predicated on coddling the feelings of women and minorities and demoralizing competent
I didn't
white
realize it
men.
had been stated like that.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, so that's why you don't want someone like that hired to be in that position.
I agree, and I wouldn't ever for a moment defend that or identify with that. That's completely absurd. But still, I think the answer isn't to swing the pendulum to the other side. You know what I mean? To flip to the other side and just start, because I don't see a lot of difference in what he did and what she just did. You get my point? I'm not saying I'm right, and I can definitely be convinced I'm wrong, but they seem similar to me, which is, oh yeah, look, this is the problem. And so, I mean, I would call back to what she just said, which is talking about white tears, talking about the fact that white people are the infiltrators and that we're attempting to deport all the minorities. It's am I completely off base?
I
you
mean,
want to listen to it again?
Some of the things, like, yeah, she said, it can be inflammatory to what.
You want to listen to it again? Let's see.
I don't think we had to listen to it again, but yeah, we can go ahead and play it.
Well, I'm just saying, because I'm trying to determine whether I responded appropriately to it, right? Like whether I emotionally reacted to something that I shouldn't have.
Listen, if you are competent, you are not concerned. When I walk into Congress every single day, you know why I don't feel a way and why you can't make me doubt who I am? Is because I know that I had to work 10 times as hard as they did just to get into the seat. When you look and you compare me to Marjorie Taylor Greene or me to Lauren Boebert, there is no comparison. And that is the life that we have always lived. So the only people that are crying are the mediocre white boys that have been beaten out by people that historically have had to work so much harder.
Okay, now the implication there being that DEI has threatened incompetent white people by bringing people in. That's the problem. Is the problem with DEI is that it provides cover for incompetence. It's not meritocracy. It's not meritorious, right? It doesn't promote the best worker, the most qualified. It segments that out into ideological divides and uses that as a way to promote hire and divide.
Right. I don't know if there's something. I was thinking about with the DEI, like for me personally, I don't know if it's actually saying or if people interpret it this way, especially people who are hiring, other people in this to meet DEI quotas. Is that when somebody is, let's say they have 1,000 jobs available for this particular job, whatever it may be, and then you hire 500 people, and you saying that you can't find another 500 people to meet the DEI qualifications, are you saying like they're stopping hiring people to fill those roles just so they can be diversified? Like, there are jobs available. There are people available.
Oh, yeah, that's 100% what they're doing.
See, that's what I don't agree with. Like, if there are jobs available and they don't have, like, the minority, to fill those roles, then you should still fill those roles with the qualified people.
Yeah, what they're saying is let's say under that scenario with 1,000 people, regardless of how many they've hired, 30% of those have to be black or minority, right? And then a certain percentage of them have to be women. And the problem is that's all well and good if we're talking about let's say low-skilled jobs. But let's imagine we're talking about neurosurgeons. Okay, so what happens if you find out that the hospital that you're about to send your father to for brain surgery hired 30% of their neurosurgeons based on the color of their skin to meet requirements? You're gonna be like, okay, you're not going to want to go there.
Yeah, you just want qualified people.
That's right.
I think if there's a tie,
that's right.
Have a minority.
And the reason that you don't want to go there isn't because you have a problem with black surgeons or other nationalities being surgeons. That's not the issue at hand. The issue is you want the absolute best surgeon that you can get. And so when we start breaking it in and saying a certain percentage have to be this and a certain percentage have to be that, that's when the problem arises in my mind. Like Delta.
Yeah.
Remember Delta did it with pilots. They said that in 2023, I believe it was, or maybe it's 2022. I think in 2022, they said in 2023, 50% of their hires would be Black, people of color, indigenous. Or they said,
yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
and everybody went, wait a second, what? 50%?
Yeah.
You only make up 13, 17. If you include all, you only make up 23% of the population. So why would you ever try to force it beyond 23? And the second you do, you're no longer meritoriously, selecting. Now you're selecting, even sitting it right at the mark, doesn't allow for true meritorious promotion. Right? Oh, look, we are a country that's 23% non-white, 67%, or 33% rather, 33% non-white, 67% white. If you tried to force it right at that line, you're still not allowing for variance. You're still not allowing that there may be two candidates and one of them's better and they're white. And it's this, the problem isn't the problem is the effects, because it's an equality of outcomes versus an equality of inputs. If you want to influence that, you have to influence the input. You can't influence the outcomes. That's Marxism. That's socialism. And that was the whole. We know why that failed. We know the problems with that are inherently built into that. And so it's like just because it's part-time, or we're trying to be a part-time pimp, or trying to just dabble our foot in socialism, doesn't make it okay.
Outside business.
Right.
But yeah, that's what I understood it to be. But I wasn't sure if people were hiring, if they had positions available and they didn't have that. They couldn't meet their requirement because nobody wants those jobs. They're just simply not hiring. And what they need, if they need 1,000 people, and they're just there's nobody out there, so we're just going to use this 500.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Yeah. And they're saying that by law we have to. They were saying by law we have to hire 30%. So we need more candidates that are this, and by proxy, they're selecting candidates they're not as qualified because of their inclusion in those demographics, and that's the problem. I would argue that's racist, but I understand in the 80s the need for equal opportunity.
You got to get the ball rolling.
Right. There really was a need, because there was a huge social. There were a lot of problems in the 80s.
We know.
I don't feel like I own them, because we weren't a part of them necessarily. We were children. But I see the need in that situation. I hope that we've outgrown it, but I think the numbers will tell us that. So I don't know. This is a lot deeper of a topic than I intended to delve into. But
yeah, that's a topic for next. Maybe we'll get Terry in, and maybe some other people.
Yeah, definitely. But so back to the topic, the actual topic, the executive orders and actions. We covered those two. And then finally tariffs, which we're going to try to get our friend back in that's expert on tariffs and logistics, and see if we can have another discussion with him now that these things are actually unfolding. But if you notice, Canada and Mexico both got a 30-day reprieve because they met Trump's expectations. They were like, okay, look, what we're asking you to do is work with us on the border. There is tons of security issues coming across the border on both sides. And Mexico agreed, I think, to send 15,000 troops to the border.
I think it was 10,000.
Was it 10,000?
Yeah,
I could be mistaken.
10,000.
Yep. Yeah. So they agreed to send troops to the border to help reinforce it and control. And that's what I think that's what Trump was trying to produce, because he's backing the tariffs off and giving him time to meet these expectations. And so I would argue that that's a successful negotiation tactic, right? Rather than just throwing tariffs down.
Oh, I still think you trying to use tariffs as any type of attack or anything like that is still a bad idea. That's just trying to destroy his relationships. Yeah.
Well, I mean, again, we've had the conversation about the way you penalize a company, right? You penalize a corporation financially because it's not an individual. I think that plays out at the state level too. I think there's only a certain number of ways you have to get companies to play ball with you on the items that you need them to be playing ball on. So I don't know that I disagree. I think that I think there's a chance it'll prove to have been highly effective and highly a good idea. Right.
I mean, if it stops the drugs from coming in, from
Right.
Mexico, then
Right.
obviously it's going to be a win.
Right.
But, we'll have to see.
Right.
I don't know if that's how they're getting in necessarily.
I'm really interested to talk to our friend to see how he sees it because, and he's agreed to come back. So I think we can.
You sure you got time?
Yeah. Right. Right.
I heard China's still. Yeah, they still got their tariffs on.
Right, definitely. Yeah, and not only that, they've introduced reprisal tariffs, right, reciprocal tariffs, saying that
they're going to 10% tariffs on.
Yeah, they're going to add to a bunch of stuff. So companies like Temu and
it's already cheap.
Yeah, right. And look at it, 20% tariffs on those. And the crazy thing is, I wanted to mention this because Trump, when you hear him talking about tariffs and things like that, a lot of times he'll talk about trade deficits. And if someone wants to post an explanation for this in comments or something, let us know because I don't understand the use of that point at all when you talk about a trade deficit. If you're country one and I'm country two, and I sell $1 million worth of product into your country, and you sell $100,000 worth of product into my country, that's a $900,000 trade deficit. Is that a bad thing? I don't know. Do I need to be consuming $1 million worth of product from your country? Is that what we're talking about? Why?
Yeah, I mean, actual numbers. The numbers matter.
Well, yeah, but yes, the numbers matter. But even then,
not the term trade deficit.
Yeah, but trade deficit is just an anomalous. Look, we sell or buy a lot more than they do from us. We buy a lot more from them than they buy from us, and that there may be a world in which we could equalize that for some reason. I don't know.
I mean, we're getting a lot of material in from somebody and selling it off.
Yeah. And I guess we may have just answered our question because that's probably what it is. I bet he's looking because it's like $1.5 billion trade deficit with China. I bet he's looking at it saying, "Look, we buy X amount of dollars from your country and use your products to stimulate your market and your economy, and you're not doing the same thing for us. So we want you to set tariffs in a way that incentivizes us selling into you, so we can bolster our manufacturing." That has to be what it is.
Well, that would make sense.
But
you don't know because he just says we're just going to put tariffs on, and then
and
that's what happened.
And the tariffs don't serve that because the tariffs make the things that we're buying of yours more expensive. Right, those are local tariffs, so that means that if anything, that's going to make the trade deficit higher. You see what I mean?
Well, like I said, it depends on how you set the tariffs. Like I don't know, like the percentages and everything, but you want to incentivize, companies coming to our country to try to eliminate, and you're creating jobs, and then you're actually increasing your exports and everything.
Yeah, we want to bolster our manufacturing and our production. That's right.
But tariffs are very hard. Like it has to be like a surgical knife.
Right.
Like what he's doing is, using it as a weapon.
Right. Well,
you'll see if it works. You'll see if it works. But
I think it would argue that he's not like a weapon. I think he's just used it as a bargaining tool. Right, so far, and with China, with Mexico and Canada, it appears to be working. So I wish China would take a page and say, we can do this, and apparently they were getting into discussions tonight or last night, one of the two. So maybe they'll come up with something to balance it out. Who knows?
Well, I know one thing: Trump never says he made a bad deal.
Well, Trump's never made a bad deal. What are you talking about? Right.
Like the other point, like the Canada thing. I think they were already going to do that. Like I can't speak to that. Like,
are we going to do
wall,
what?
Like the wall or whatever they're going to build in Canada. I think they were talking about that last year or something. I remember reading about that a couple of years ago. They were talking about doing that already, and then I was like, "Oh, the tariffs won.
Yeah,
go me. Thank you. You're welcome."
I feel like we'll be in a better position to discuss how these are playing out in a week or two. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we should be able to.
Definitely. And I could be proven wrong. You never know.
Victory.
Okay, so before we get into the last one, I need to take a quick break. But there is the last one, we're going to come local, and we're going to talk about our home state making a lot of news and a lot of waves. So go ahead and take a quick break. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right. All right, we're back. Yeah. So the last one is Tennessee. So I have a close friend of mine who is definitely leans left. And he sent me a text the other morning saying, look at what Tennessee is doing, and showing the Tennessee bill that was passing. And so let's go ahead and let's look at that real fast. Tennessee immigration bill, because it's a good bet. So let's look at this first. That was 2 weeks ago. Here we go.
This is a News 2 breaking news alert.
And that breaking news, a controversial immigration bill gets Tennessee Senate approval. Troopers removed these women from a hearing on the bill this morning after lawmakers called them out of order. Welcome to News 2 at 4. I'm Haley Wilgus. The bill does a lot, including creating an immigration enforcement agency. But the more controversial part allows local officials to be arrested. Democrats call it unconstitutional. News 2's Kenley Hargett breaks down this proposal and the disarray that unfolded.
Now, this is the only time we're going to have in Tennessee law that says if you vote in the affirmative, you will be charged with a felony.
Under a bill moving through the legislature, local officials like city council members could be charged with a felony if they vote in favor of so-called sanctuary policies for people in the country illegally. Supporters of the bill believe no lawmaker should stop the federal government from catching criminals who come to the U.S. illegally.
Not just human beings, but criminal gangs come into these United States and into Tennessee. And drug trafficking, human trafficking, which is something that should appall all of us, has been increased by this lawless border condition that was allowed to exist.
Other lawmakers believe this is unconstitutional to stop a lawmaker from voting what they believe their constituents want, citing that America's forefathers ensured lawmakers protection for their voting.
Have an oath to uphold the Constitution. And if we go to Article 1, Section 6, there's a speech and debate clause, which comes from the 1689 English Bill of Rights, which was a response to the British Crown's history of using legal measures to intimidate and punish legislators for legislative action. So the English king was punishing lawmakers in Parliament for how they voted.
Before the law moved forward today, state troopers removed protesters from the gallery.
They were protesting in court.
But with the Republican supermajority, the bill easily passed in committee. The bill also offers incentives to local governments that work with the feds on illegal immigration and still needs approval from the House and the governor. Haley?
Okay, so on the face, yes, it sounds like, oh my gosh, they're preventing lawmakers from voting the way that they think their constituents want them to vote. I don't think that's the important angle. And I think the important angle on this is, and it almost immediately when my friend asked me about it, I said, I'm pretty sure this is an attempt to prevent Tennessee cities from turning into sanctuary cities. And it does turn out that that's correct. The problem is that a lot of people on the left are saying this is fascism, and this is, just one of the first steps. The way I choose to see it, or I think it's better to look at it, and you can tell me if you think I'm wrong, but the way I think it should be viewed is essentially it says if a lawmaker it does say vote. So if they vote for a bill or a policy that violates federal immigration law,
it's federal law,
then it makes it a felony. So when you look at it like that, because there are cities like Chicago right now that have multiple policies and bills that have passed that are allowing them to do things like harbor illegal aliens and harbor undocumented workers,
right,
and things like that. And it's a showdown. And there are situations where the federal government or maybe the Trump White House is suing the city for that. Tennessee is saying that's not going to happen here. There are not going to be any cities that pass local laws in defiance of federal law. And when you look at it like that, yeah, if you vote for it, now this is the part where I'm not sure how legal it is, right? I don't know. But if you vote for
locking people up,
right? If you actually vote for something that violates federal law, then we're going to consider it a Class C felony, and you're going to get locked up and have a fine or whatever. Mm-hmm. I don't know, and I'll be interested to see how it plays out. But from one of the people the guy that just spoke made a very good point. It's like you're trying to keep us from voting what our constituents want. Well, none of your constituents want you to vote that way. I don't believe. I don't think there's anyone there. there are outside of maybe a couple of cities in Tennessee, Nashville could be one of them. I think Nashville might be the bluest city we have. I don't know, maybe Memphis, but might be the bluest city that we have.
Yeah.
I still can't imagine it passing, anybody wanting a law to protect undocumented workers from ICE is what we're talking about. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, just look at it from, the legal, the laws. Like, you can't, outvote like a federal law. You can't do that.
Right.
That opens up a whole other can of worms,
Well, you can. There have been plenty of times that's happened. So, for example, when there was a federal ban on marijuana, some states like Colorado and Oregon attempted. I think it was Oregon. I don't want to mislabel anybody or accuse anyone, but a couple of states attempted to not their first attempt was to legalize marijuana in spite of the federal ban. They ultimately couldn't do it.
Yeah,
they couldn't get it passed, so they decriminalized.
Yeah,
that was the whole reason for the decriminalization, was because they said, we can't change the federal law, but what we can do is decriminalize it. That created a whole other situation, because that meant that they weren't allowed to store their money, save their money in FDIC banks that were federally backed. So it created a whole other slew of problems, but decriminalization was the first way. Right. Right. And so I think that's what Tennessee's trying to avoid. They're trying to say, look, we're not going to set up these safe harbor cities where the city mandates and the city ordinances are allowed to pass legislation that blocks federal law. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And in that context, I kind of have a hard time disagreeing with it. I don't know. I would love for anybody to let me know if there's something I'm not seeing.
I don't. I think like you. I don't agree with the locking out part. Or
that's
a tough pill to swallow right there.
I agree. I don't know. Will we have anybody that would do it? I guess just to prove the point. I don't know.
I don't know. I think I'm gonna enact a law says that we should bring back slavery. Just
there you go.
Just do that.
There you go.
Not for me. I mean for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would definitely defy federal law. Yo, this time it's me.
Yeah.
Okay, I see. Yeah, that would definitely be in contravention of federal law for sure. But I don't know. I think getting to the spirit of the thing is important, and just like the other day when we were looking at the 14th Amendment and the way that was set up, I think I don't know. States can pass laws that defy federal mandates and federal laws, but it does impact their funding from them forward. Their ability to receive federal money. So,
I don't know. It's like did they reclassify the marijuana?
No, I think it was the way, like Tennessee, the way we got around it was with the Delta 8 and Delta 10 laws. So the way that we genetically modified marijuana to meet the hemp growing standards.
Yeah, I guess that's the point. We did it legally. Right. It was a legal workaround or loophole or whatever.
Right. Yeah. But anyway. Yeah. So anything else before we sign off for the night?
No, I don't think so. I guess I'll look forward to next time, another interview.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we'll be able to. Hopefully, we can work that out in the next week, 2 weeks tops. But I'll know more tomorrow. I'll know more on this weekend, so I'll know more Saturday. But yeah, so it sounds like I'm sure we'll see each other again next week before. Maybe we'll do the interview. I don't know. We'll see what he says.
All right. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Sorry, this was a bit of someone had pitfalls in it. So
pitfalls.
Yeah, we hit some touchy stuff tonight. Yeah. But,
it's touchy. But I mean, that's the responsibility, right?
It is.
I think that's what we're here to do. We're here to, clear out some of the noise. If you're, because everybody's saying this is bad, without really telling you why and what's actually trying to happen. We're not really hearing that from the president or the White House. So give you a blanket statement. You know, that's what I think we're here for. It's not great thing. This is what we do.
I agree. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I hope you have a wonderful night.